Welcome everyone to our first episode of what is known as Night Call. It's a story-based taxi driver in Paris. So we're just going to go for a new game. You're going to see what's going to happen. It's a lovely story, I've heard. This is my first time playing this, first impression, just like you. Let's see what goes. Choose the investigation. Victims have seen something in common and motives seem clear, but which suspect could have done it? Balanced case, perfect for a first run. We'll go with a first run. We are gonna go with a story based. So we are a taxi driver and we have to only find out information from our taxi drives. And this is a story-based game that I hope you enjoy. Game by all them lovely people. In collaboration with these people. It's nice to show the information at the beginning. So yeah, we're a taxi driver in Paris. That must be us. Look a bit old. Ooh, flip, that's a murder. The reason why it's named Night Call is all because it's one thing you do as a taxi driver. You're on the night call. Oh, what the flip do I do there? Doctor. Here? Sir, can hear me? Or do I need to speak up? You're fine? Sir, you just spent 2 weeks in a coma. Flip, 2 weeks. The word bounces around your head. You need a moment to understand its meaning. Coma? The word scratches along your throat. Yes, you were the victim of an assault. The word resonates in your head. Victim. You are aware a serial killer is currently on the loose in Paris. You feel the contents of your stomach crawling up your throat. The judge, as the police called the killer, assaulted you. The bullet touched your liver, and in most circumstances, it would have been fatal. We choose to put you in an induced. Her voice becomes more distant, fades. You taste bile at the back of your throat. Your head is burning. You hear a whistle in one of your ears. Your finger moves around your wound. Underneath the bandages, you can feel the hard skin. It's incredibly painful. I'm sorry? Did they catch the judge? No. What about my passenger? He was dead before you even got out of your cab. The doctor is silent for a second, a very awkward second. She hesitates. The police would like to see you as soon as possible, to ask you some questions. After all, you're the only one who survived the judge. Noise in the hallway attracts your attention. You try to turn your head, to no avail. You need to rest. She leaves the room. Her voice resonates in the hallway. I don't care. He's the only witness. Another female voice joins in. A strong... See, I can't really do female voices, so I'm not going to do a female voice. A strong, authoritarian voice. You can't clearly make up what she's saying. A strange feeling washes over you. It's not pain, not fatigue. Some odd combination of the two. Before being in this hospital room, you'd never realised that anger was made up of a combination of pain and exhaustion. Anger. A feeling you know all too well. Days go by, and a month later. Night 1 in our taxi system. Well, look, I've got a bit of a problem. A real problem, that is. You have a pounding headache. It's your first night behind the wheel since the attack. Are you listening to me? You catch your boss's eye in the rearview mirror. Sorry? I just want things to get back to normal, to clear my head, to stop thinking about it all. He's watching you closely, trying to make out what's going on in your head. You know, I'm worried about you, don't you? I know. You're like a son to me, you know? I know. And you know he's about to tell you the story of his taxi fleet. Again. When my father died and left me the store, I could have sold it. I could have retired, gone back to the old country. Let him go, Uncle. But I decided to start a cab fleet with the money he left me, to hire the guys from the neighbourhood. And that's why I've got 45 guys like you working for me. His hands flutter in the air. Though none of them are any match for you. He smiles, his voice suddenly turns on a serious note. Do you want me to go over everything again? He points to the equipment on the dashboard, the meter, the GPS. You haven't been in a taxi for weeks. Maybe you do need a little refresher. Yeah, good idea. Right then. Well, first a map. You spot potential customers and try to guess where they'll be going. Then you decide. When a customer orders a taxi, if there's no one else around, you have to go pick them up. He shrugs. That's the way it goes. It's business. No problem. The other fares, you look at the map and decide whether or not you want to take them. And then you drive. He flashes a quick mechanical smile. You know it well. When he talks about work, he talks about work. That's all. When your shift is over, we do the numbers and... His voice trails off, as if to search for the right words. And that's all. It's pretty simple. There's no reason why you can't do it. Oh, right. No overtime. We're in France here, and there are rules, regulations. You might not see it that way, but no one likes having a driver who hasn't slept for 24 hours. He looks away. Something's bothering him since he got into the cab. Anyhow, you know the ropes. You get it. I know you're going to do a good job. What's the matter? Your boss keeps quiet for a while, as if hesitant to speak, and then... I don't think it's a good idea. You shouldn't be driving. The murderer is still out there, and we think he's going to come back for you. He doesn't know who I am. He could have seen your face. The police are positive he didn't. He attacked me from behind. I fell to the ground, then he took off. Silence, your eyes lock. He holds your gaze. He wants to believe you, to be on your side. He looks away. Anyway, I'll let you get back to work. Every minute spent in this taxi, in your taxi, is a minute lost. He gives you a smile, half ironic, half serious. Good night. Same to you, and good luck. You'll spend the rest of the night dealing with problems and drivers. You wonder how and when the guy ever gets any sleep. Your boss opens the door and exits the cab. You watch him cross the street and enter the fleet garage. A couple of colleagues are milling about. Taxis are coming and going. They all annoy you, consciously or unconsciously. You are branded. You sit there a moment, then turn the keys in ignition. The hum of the engine sends a tingle down your spine. It's impossible to describe how you miss that feeling. It's back to the night shift. Back to life. Despite the attack. Despite it all. Okay, now on the game section, so let's move this way. Let's go this guy, maybe get this lady at the same time. I don't think that's possible. Okay, where are you going, sir? Sure, I'll accept your fare. There's a calm presence. He gently closes his door and gives you an address on the other side of the city. You start driving. You sense your passenger wants to talk about the killer. It's simple. Since the first murder, everyone thinks they know something. Everyone thinks they saw something. And the passenger is no exception. Rather chilly out, isn't it? His voice is warm and deep. Finally you notice his white collar. You're not too cold. We do what we can to stay warm. You've got a lot of grit to want to drive in this kind of weather. The holy water font froze yesterday. We had to pour boiling water over it to break the ice. He pauses for a moment. He looks at the car, the seats, the window. It's funny. I've never made the connection before today, but a taxi is kind of like a confessional. A small box removed from the world where two people can converse without the risk of being interrupted. He waits. You look at him in a rearview mirror. Do people blabber on about their lives? All the time. I'm not surprised. His face lights up. Why, yes, I'm doing exactly what my parishioners do when they come for confession. They start with small talk, the weather, their grandson, granddaughter, niece, their dog. When they finally get around to what really matters, they share lies, trickery, stinginess. He sighs. I've been listening to people's confessions for over 15 years, and it's funny, but no one has ever told me anything really serious. He's waiting to see how you would react. No crimes? A slight smile on his face. There have been things that are hard on a personal level, but never anything illegal. It's just that people I hear in confession have so much to say. Of course, we all have things we are ashamed of. Feud clearly understood the importance of the confessional booth. He made it into something more modern, more attractive, and less punitive. He pauses. Before going to seminary, I never doubted my calling. But since, he leans in closer, his voice now low and softer. Since then I've had a clearer understanding of the world. I could connect religions, school of thought, ideas. And living in a country that is less and less religious, it's hard not to start wondering. Your pasture makes a sound, like a cork popping from a wine bottle. I have something I want to tell you. It doesn't bother me that people stop believing or believe in something else. Why our faith more than another? He struggles to find his word. What bothers me is that I'm not bothered by it. It's like I've already accepted it. He looks outside. Is there such a thing as a driver-passenger confidentiality? He pauses and bursts out laughing. I'm kidding. But I do wonder what people talk to you about. How would you feel about swapping stories? Sure, I don't have that many stories. Really? I didn't think. He smiles. Nothing leaves the car, right? You nod. Who first? Me, why not? It's not such a nice story. And not only because of what everything followed. The night of the terrorist attacks, the other drivers and I were helping people get home. We drove around, waved to people to get in, telling them it was okay, that everything was going to be alright. It was chaos. They all wanted to go home to their loved ones who weren't answering their phones. The slightest odd noise made them jump. Anyway, a woman and her husband got in the car. She rode a headscarf. He was glued to his phone. They gave him an address. We drove them towards Rue di Rivoli. The radio was announcing the first estimations on the number of deaths. He started crying. She looked at me, stared at me in the rearview mirror, like she wanted to read my mind. We'd almost arrived when he told her to take her scarf off, that it would be easier for everyone that way. She refused. He raised his voice. She continued to stare at me in the mirror. A car speeds in front of you. You stop talking. How reckless. You glance at me to the green light, your rearview mirror. In the backseat, your passenger leaned slightly forward. And what did you do? I nodded, insinuating that she was right, that it would all come down to that. She kept her headscarf on. I pulled over in front of the building. She got out first, walked towards the building without waiting for him. He paid me, lowered his eyes. He takes a second to pause the story. He holds your glaze. His hands close. Impressive. Very impressive. You're saying we should remain proud of and faithful to our convictions. You nod. Your pastor smiles, but something is not quite right, as if his smile was forced. My turn now, I suppose. There was this old man whose wife died very young. Since she was an avid churchgoer, he continued to come every Sunday morning. He clarifies. You should know that it's very rare to see a man alone at church. There are couples, lots of old ladies, mothers, young women. Church is not very manly, unfortunately. But anyway, he came. One day he asked me to take his confessions. We sat down. A long moment of silence went by. I usually let them get accumulated to the muffled sounds of coming from the outside of the booth, especially if it's their first time. And there, he tells me that he's in love with someone, but doesn't dare betray his deceased wife. She was everything to him, you see. His sun, his oxygen. For the last 20 years he's been suffocating, in incapable of living alone. He wondered if it was a sin or wrong, or he might get upset his wife up in heaven. He pauses a minute to let his smile spread across his face. I managed to find the right words, but he still wasn't sure and said he'd come back to talk to me again. He stops. He died that night in his sleep. I think of him often. We don't always hear our calling. We avoid our own destiny. His expression freezes. He hesitates, opens his mouth, stops himself, and then finally, "You're alright. Our stories are similar. Complementary. Thank you for sharing him with me." You almost reach his destination. You notice your passenger has been keeping an eye on the dashboard clock. You park in front of the address he gave you and cut the meter. The passenger pays his fare and suddenly seems lighter, more at ease. Good luck. He gets out of the taxi and disappears into the nearby building. I got a tip. Nice. Let's go this way to try and get more to our taxi rank. That was a really nice story. Enjoyed that. Oh, he's making us go that way. Oh well. You double park and wait for the next passenger to slide into the back seat. He looks at you. He appreciates you and your taxi. He gives you his address. You start driving. Your passenger doesn't make a sound for the next few minutes of the trip. It doesn't bother you. You have enough on your mind. You overcome with a crave to smoke. You nod slowly and glance at your passenger. Calm and still, he seems far away. Cold as hell, huh? Yes, you're right. It's really cold out. He slowly turns his head towards you. He gives you an odd look, like he is disappointed you're talking to him. He watches you closely for another minute and turns back to look out the window. You keep your eyes on the road. His silence becomes heavy. All of a sudden you feel a strange sense of camaraderie with your passenger. You look at him quickly in the rearview mirror, and he doesn't look familiar at all, and yet it's like you know him. A second later, an outside light shines in your face in a weird angle. It looks like he's smiling. A few seconds later you drive down his street. He straightens up a bit. You park in front of the number he gave you. He pays his fare without a word. The door opens slowly. He smiles at you. You can tell it comes from the bottom of his heart, despite how uptight he is. You're a really swell guy. You weren't expecting that. By the time you collect your thoughts, your passenger is already far away. He disappears into the building. A moment goes by before you turn the key in the ignition. Gave me more of a tip. The door suddenly opens and a woman gets into the back seat. Having a good night? No, I can't do female voices. Having a good night? For a second, you freeze. It's one of the cops working on the judge's case. She grins at you. Her voice creaks. You remember seeing her at the hospital. Something really bothered you about her there. You know, it's pretty crazy. For weeks, I've been saying to myself, there's something off about you. Something not so nice. I dug around, mulled it over, bugged all of my fellow cops about it, because I saw you lied to us. She whistles you to cut off. Hey, I'm talking. She has a cold sneer on her face. I'm going to be frank with you. She leans over to you. I don't think you're the judge. Nah, I just can't picture it. She squints. She's like trying to make you out from far away. Like you have gone to the extent of hunting yourself. Yeah, between us is a bit of a stretch. She stares at you. You're not enough of a stretch for my chief to stop going on and on about you. Seriously, he talks about you all the time. If I didn't know any better, I'd think he had a crush on you. She smirks. No. I think he's more interesting in your profile. In prison at 17. An icy chill fills your gut. And for murder too. You open your mouth but nothing comes out. Since you got out, you've kept a low profile, but you're lying about your name and your address. I checked. It's normal, you'd say. If word got out of your time served, no loan for your permit, no lease for your car, meaning no second chance at life. Her voice becomes softer, almost warm. I personally like guys who want a second chance. No, I like guys who fight for a second chance. Basically, I like guys who are willing to work for me. She leans forward, her shining cat-like eyes narrowing. My chief wants to go to the prosecutor with the first and last name, with evidence. Actually, knowing him, he's not so hot on evidence. So, I'll give you info, victims, suspects, medical reports, some photos that are a bit... She makes a gagging noise. You have to be discreet. Keep it between you and me. Interrogate, ask questions, dig around. Not a cop. She shrugs. Don't worry, you're already keener than half the squad. Sorry. And don't forget, I'm not asking you to make an arrest and deliver the killer wrapped around with a bow in front of the station, okay? You're no Batman. You're just here to get me more information. She rummages around in her pockets for what seems like forever. Here, take my card. I'll call you in 3-4 days, just check in and we'll chat. I'll let you know if I have any new info. She takes a diatric, paternalistic tone, like she was giving you a list of recommendations for the 100th time. Don't get caught. Don't get arrested. Also, I wouldn't recommend trying to leave Paris. I know what you look like, and I know who your friends are. You can either be the solution or the problem, my friend. She takes a minute to scan your face, your emotions. If I have to, I'll go check in on you-know who. Her smile is biting. That reminds me, she knows you've done time. You shake your head, she sniffers. Oh, my little dirtbag, you cover your tracks well. I did what I could. Yeah, if you say so. She sighs in a tired, exaggerated way. Don't try to mess with me, man. If things don't go well, I'll turn you in. I'll send your picture to all my friends in the media and every asshole in Paris. Your photo of your name on it and your real name. Anyone close to you will have their places searched. They'll be put under house arrest, spend nights in jail. You have any idea of how tense things are with that Effort's trial anyway? That's too far, I'm not going to say that word. That's too far. You sigh. You know what she's trying to get at. Come to think of it, your last names are almost the same. You could be brothers, actually. I'm nothing like that terrorist. She smiles. Let me tell you, with that face of yours and your handle, they'll welcome you with open arms. You have no right. I know we have no right. She takes in serious tone, businesslike. I want to catch this killer personally. I want to drag him to court, ruin his life with a bang. I can't botch this case, you got me? And neither can you, right? Obviously. Well, great then. We see eye to eye. So, you can just stay with my informant, my CI. He ripped open your gut. You saw your own insides. You were in a coma. Yeah, you have plenty of reasons you want to get back at him. She frowns her brow. Yeah, I think you're actually going to do what I'm going to tell you to do. You investigate, ask questions, listen to all the rumours, and you come up with a list of suspects. She lays her hands on the door handle and freezes. Oh, right, and don't get fired. Without this cab, you're worth nothing to me. You glare at her. Say nothing. She puts her hand on the man bar. I'll make sure you get some more. I'll make sure you get more intel tomorrow. I'll find a way. Until then, it's a word to everyone, obviously. What's a word? The door opens, squeaks, and slams shut. Effing B. You sat alone for a while, teeth clenched, dry eyes, ears buzzing. Another bad word. On the back seat, the cop flipped a pile of papers. Another bad word. Key in ignition, motor rang. Radio on crackled, you turn it off and start driving. Talking to passengers might unlock new documentation and clues for your investigation. You'll find them in the back of the studio after your shift. 6 clues available in my room. It's end of the night? Maybe? Yes, end of the night. I think. Ooh, this is nice aesthetic. You take a second to enjoy the silence of your studio apartment. Outside, the city is slowly waking up. You can still hear the hum of taxis buzzing in your ears. You throw the files Bazette gave you on the table. On the wall, you hang up the big corkboard where you used to pin the photos of your nephews. They've been gone since you got out of. Your plan is simple. Jot down all of the pieces of evidence and connect them to the suspects. The guilty party won't necessarily be the one with the most evidence against them, but the one with the most compelling evidence against them. It's like you're building a story about each suspect. You're trying to understand their motives, understand how he or she got into this situation. A bus goes by, making the walls shake. You glance at your bed and get to work. The killer's case. Hold to investigate. I've got loads of clues, man. Autopsy report. And another autopsy report. I get to look up the board too. So, killer's height is under 1.80 m. Killer left a message in chalk on 3 of his crime scenes. Killer knew the victims. Hold on. Killer knew the victims or researched them. Death equals execution. Apart from us. Victim 2 killed. Victim 2 killed a Nigerian man but was never arrested. Message on crime scene T times up. Message on crime scene 2, you deserve this. Weapon equals rare gun used in the 70s. Okay. Well, that is the end of the night. I think it's automatically saved, I'm not completely sure. But I hope you guys enjoyed anyway. Just going to bed, run for your head, streets, pastures, their faces, their problems. Okay, that should be an automatic save. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to go to night 2. I want to go for a bit of a break on call. Oh, never mind. Well, we're going to go down here, see what this guy says then. Yeah, bit of a distance, but fine. recognize the passenger. You never watch television, rarely listen to the radio. You don't read the newspaper. And yet, you know Francis de la Nery's face. Polemist, novelist, columnist, politician too, you think. Your passenger distractingly gives you his address. You start driving. Are you bothered by all of these protest marches? His question washes over you. You forgot that during the day, people were holding protests. I work nights. Ah. He doesn't know how to follow up. A moment goes by before he yelps. Ah, see, there's not much chance they'd come to protest at 3 a.m., huh? It's not surprising, actually. They want to make change, but only when it's convenient. Not during vacations, not on weekends, not at night. They make fun of us in other countries. France, the land of strikes, the land of protest marches. This country is filled with jackasses, slacklers, and simpletons. But they protest nonetheless. What do you mean by that? I mean, they take the bus or the train specifically to protest. Well, yes, they certainly do like to protest, but actually most people on strike just stay at home and don't work. Before you get the slightest word of edgewise, he starts it again. Take the United States, for example. They have no right to strike. It's do or die. Spit flies from his mouth, disappears somewhere on the back seat. And they didn't become the most powerful country in the world by going on strikes all the time. He snickers. His notebook appears in his hand and he begins to write. Strike. Protest. Unrest. While businessmen and manufacturers are working around the clock, French people should be ashamed. Take a look in the mirror and decide to change, to do something. They expect too much from life. They want to take their cake and eat it too, and bite off more than they can chew. He catches his breath, forth begins to foam at the corner of his mouth. And meanwhile, the world keeps turning. While the strikers twiddle their thumbs, workers are working. No struggle to get the job done. That's better. Idiotic protest marches. The Frenchest thing and the stupidest. We have to look at the masses in the eye and say, you do not own the streets. You shall not wield them like weapons. He suddenly raises his eyes and looks at you. They are unfocused and his complexion deathly pale. Say nothing. I once marched. It just came back to me like an old childhood memory. I can see it clearly, from Versailles to Paris. I can picture the banners, the songs, the people's faces. There were so many of us. We got up at dawn, thousands of us, and we marched towards the capital. Our pure and wholesome voices rose up. His voice shakes a bit. What are you marching for? It was a cry from the heart of the right for high quality religious education, while France was being crushed by the rate of socialism. While we were being ideologically purged, completely decimated, it was the end of whatever school that was. The end of our culture as we knew it. His voice trembles. Did you win? Yes. So, protesting is okay then. His forehead pitches forward, as if his head was too heavy. We weren't being heard, we weren't being respected. Perhaps you are right. A single finger interrupts the conversation. But we didn't go on strike. We didn't bother anyone with our banners or our gatherings. And yet, we still won. He skies contentedly as he pulled a taxi up along the sidewalk. Those were the days. It was a great time. The left were running the country. He leans in towards you, like he's about to tell you a secret, with a smirk on his face. And, I mean, the real left? Eh? He pays and gets out of the car. You hear him talking to himself as he walks towards the front door of his building. What a lovely night. Good luck to you tomorrow. With all those protest marches is going to be a messy one. He's gone before you had time to remind him you only work nights. You notice a newspaper on the back seat. Your last passenger must have left it behind. Or the one before? You grab it and put it away. Could come in handy. You start driving. No tip. He gave me no tip. How dare he? What's that over there? Okay, you first, and then we can probably go over that way. If you don't go over that way, I'm going to be mad. No, that's a bit too far away. Let's go this way. I want to get to this bit and see what it is. Because I have no idea what that is. You park a few streets away from the Argentinian embassy. You wait there for your contact. You sigh. It seems a bit odd to have a contact. It's excessive. The guy is one of your regular poker buddies, a night watchman at the embassy. You get out of your taxi and walk towards a big metal gate. Clean lines, early 20th century maybe, lots of water iron. The gate opens, someone moves towards you. Hold on. They indicate you should follow them. The person's face is hidden by oversized hoodie. Your heart starts beating faster. What if it was... Who are you? It's me, Jamie. You're David's buddy. You immediately recognize his accent. You don't feel like you're in any danger and decide to follow him. You walk into the narrow, covered passageway, probably the entrance of a parking garage. The man turns around, lights up a cigarette. The lighter lights up his face for a second. A young man with curly hair, pale skin. He looks young, very young. That would be 250 euros. Perfect. I got as much as I could, so yeah. You wanted an informant on Grodishka? I got info on Grodishka. It'll cost you 250. Bargain. He raises his hand in front of his chest. His accent becomes stronger. Oh no. If someone learns I fished around the phone spot, fine. Listen up. I'm not going to say it twice. Goshinger is definitely a colonel for the junta. One of the few who wasn't arrested and put on trial. He was responsible for torturing dozens of political opponents. He tortured and killed them. You know, we don't like him much here, but rich Argentinians in Paris love him. And they really respected him. Respected him? The difference doesn't seem important. Yeah, if it makes you happy. He looks back at you. There's one last thing. I read in the newspaper that the killer wrote a message in chalk. Time's up. It was a slogan at the end of the junta. A sort of watchword from the opponents. It was time for them to go. You get it? You nod. A second later, you back in your taxi with a hole in your wallet and information on one of the victims. If you follow his lead, maybe your investigation will move forward. You start the car and get back to your shift. Let's go over here. So, is there any way that we can... Okay, well, I wasn't able to do... Oh, there's no saving function. Ah, but you can do it at the end of night. Okay. So the end of the episode is after this. I need... Oh, you're saying you need to talk to me? Cool. The scent of orange blossom fills the air as your passenger enters the cab. You smile. She returns your smile. Good evening. There is a rare emotional warmth to her voice. You sense your passenger wants to talk about the killer. It's simple. Since the first murder, everyone thinks they know something. Everyone thinks they saw something. And this passenger is no exception. It's pretty cold out tonight, isn't it? They nod. They are passengers. Like this elderly woman you immediately take a liking to. I can almost feel the cold air setting in around the corners of my mouth. It's a funny feeling, but one that a nice hot cup of tea can quickly dispel. You sure you're not British and not French? A smile plays around her lips. Or a cup of hot chocolate, of course. Okay, yeah, maybe she is French. On nights like this, I can't go out on my own anymore. And yet I have to. She glances over at you. Why do you have to go out? Let's just say I needed to talk to you. I hope you won't get me wrong, but just drive around the block if you will. I know who you are. I know what you're doing. She's quiet for a minute. She searches for the right words while trying to reassure you. I admire what you're doing. The city really needs your help. So does the world. Don't take it the wrong way, but I know you're looking for the killer. It's been a day. I know what he did to you. I know why you're after him. She gives you a warm smile. I'd like to make you an offer. You can either take it or leave it. But I'd like to tell. And everything I tell you to remain a secret, no matter what happens afterwards. What do you say? She has a smile. My husband wasn't much of a talker either. A definite plus in my book. Well, anyhow, when he died, he left me a building. I converted it, made repairs and renovations. But above all, I made it a goal, a role, a reason to exist. This hotel, I suppose I call it a shelter, but that would scare away the people who needed it. Some say it is a retreat, but same thing. The word has unpleasant connotations. I keep it calling it a hotel because my guests need to realize they are only passing through, that their real life is out there waiting for them. Her eyes meet yours, and the more of the kind grandmother in the backseat of the cab that meets your eye. A hint of greatness. You are following me. Yes, I believe so. Good. Well, anyhow, the hotel is reserved for men, women and couples, for anyone who really needs it. I use the word reserve, but there aren't any eligibility conditions. None other than my own, that is. We live in a wonderful country, but sometimes it fails to recall its fundamental values: liberty, fraternity. In my hotel, I take in people who have been chased from their homes for every imaginable reason. Right now, I have a couple of women who are victims of domestic abuse. A young woman thrown out of her home because she didn't want to have an abortion. 2 couples were thrown out by homophobic parents. She hints her brow. I don't even know that word. Does that give you a better idea? People pay whatever they afford. She gives you a smile. I didn't do it for the money. I'm not interested in that, you know. Her forehead ceases. Helping people. There's people in trouble. I welcome them, I listen to them, I give them a moment's peace. Some spend a single night, others stay for a month. Most of my guests don't stay long. They leave as soon as they're back on their feet. As soon as they found housing. As soon as they work out whatever caused them to leave the house in the first place. You smile. There's always room, actually. I've never even been full. That's what I've come to see about you. You and I are on the same wavelength. We're working for a common good. Her forehead creases again, like a crumpled sheet. Maybe I'm wrong, of course. Good. Here are my rules or requests, if you would rather. Rule number 1. You can mention my place to anyone you think may be in need of help. Once you drop them off, I ask them in, I talk to them, I take care of them. You're free to go. You don't need to worry about me. I have my own security staff. Your passenger gives her arm a pat, as if she has a holster underneath her shirt. Your gaze locks with her. She flashes you a meaningful smile as... Okay. Rule number 2. If someone specifically asks you to bring them to my place, don't do it. Some, I guess, are being pursued, hunted, and they would be ashamed to let the wolf into the sheepfold. A bright smile from the back seat. You feel her warmth, the scent of the passenger's perfume, orange blossom, simple and suggestive. Hang in the air. Pause. She watches you intently. Pull over to the spot where he picked her up. Now, I'm going to ask you, once and for all, do you want to help me? A simple yes or no will do. It's a no. Well then, I'll have to find someone else. I'll vote yes. Here is my card. She hands you the money for her fare along with a business card. You and I are going to do great things together. I can feel it. I could use this as a good thing if somebody needs particular help. Good night. Try to stay warm. She vanishes down the side street. You sit there for a moment, business card in hand. You start the cab. A safe smile spreads over your face. Go down here. The passenger who entered your cab slams the door and stares at you intently. Where are you going? I don't know yet. Though the real question is, how can you help yourself? Do we know each other? She gives us out a laugh. Don't play innocent with me. If I were to say to you, a voice slightly rasping in October 27th. That's the date, the night of the attack, not you. 10:46 p.m. No, the attack took place later. Does that ring a bell? You nod your head. Sure. I'll answer. Yes, it does, miss. Don't you miss me? Not another word. She waggles an accusing finger at you. Last October 27th, you were in this very cab driving a fare, and you committed a crime. That's right, sir, a crime. Interrupt her. Listen. Her voice cracked. Believe me, you don't want to interrupt me. I spent the whole day working like an idiot for that rotten newspaper. Do you have any idea what I do for a living? Teacher. Did you say teacher? The idea seems practically shocking to her. Her voice takes on a sour note. I'm a sub-editor, Mr. Taxi driver. I correct mistakes that a bunch of moron journalists make. That isn't a single one. Not one who knows how to write a proper sentence. I've had it, really had it. On the night of October 27th, you cut me off. Cut you off? Well, you just shut up. I'm the one doing the talking. You sigh. Your head starts to throb. Her voice goes up a notch. I almost died that night. She grinds her teeth. You shudder. I crashed my car, my boyfriend's car, that is. The same guy who made yet another comment about women drivers. The neighbours called the police that night. I made such a scene. To think the guy dares call himself a feminist. She pauses for dramatic effect as a disturbing smile sweeps across her face. I say nothing this time. Her voice suddenly quiet and almost fragile. The next day, no more boyfriend, no more car. I messed up a job interview with a major news outlet, a paper where people know how to write, where they follow basic rules of French grammar. Imagine for just a minute, I could have stopped correcting copy for a bunch of morons. She takes a deep breath, but all because of you, because of your cab. Everything changed in the night of October 27th. The sad fairway looks over her. My life has never been the same since. But her voice is bursting with fear and hatred. Forced to go live with my mother while I went apartment hunting in this rotten city where tiny studios cost an arm and a leg. So I started looking for you. The back of your neck turns into sweat, you feel cold, clammy droplets around the drip of your spine. I started asking around. I bribed one of your colleagues into giving me your number. Got this and shining on your back. I found your address, your first one that is. If ever reached down to your boxes. But that's your business. What matters is I did eventually get your other address, the real one. The droplets has reached down the tailbone. You start shaking. At first I admit I was planning on going to your place. She shrugs her shoulders, her voice a little more softened. Just maybe to spit in your face, or something like that. And I thought to myself, no, Ludivine, maybe the guy deserves a chance. You never know. So you're going to apologise. Go on, give it your all, take your time, take a deep breath. Like that. Tell her about the attack. I'm sorry. I don't remember that night. Not memorable enough, huh? No. I've forgotten what happened that night. She freezes. A few moments after I met you, I was attacked. Attacked by the judge. It's you. You survived. Yeah. I host the conflicting feelings flicker across her face. Doubt, surprise, anger. The desire to stab you. And she fought back against the car seat. All the anger somehow gone. I didn't know. The police wanted to keep it all a secret. I didn't see the killer's face. He didn't see mine. For my own protection. For my peace of mind. The newspaper where I work, they were looking for you. We have a reporter looking for you. The last few months have been difficult for you. Really difficult. Are you going somewhere? I'm good. That's why I suggest I'm going to exit the car. I'm going to do a little walk in the cold to get my mind off things. And then, when I get home, I'll destroy all the information I have on you. Is that okay with you? You nod yes. Thank you. The word echoes for a minute through the taxi. He reaches for the door. The door opens and closes. You are alone in your taxi, your head simply spinning as if you had a drink. Just one. Something really strong. You briefly try to remember that night. Nothing but a vague impression of something behind you. The killer's silhouette. A fleeting presence. You shake your head, there's nothing more than before. If only you had turned around, everything would have been easier. If you had seen the face of. All at once you start the cab. Very powerful, very deep. Ooh, white guy with dreadlocks, yeah, I'd love to see him. Why not? Your passenger hurls himself into the back of the car, spits out his address and listens up at once as if relieved. I thought, phew, thank you for stopping. He nods and starts the car. You sense he's a talker and a real headache. It's time to focus on the road. He drums his fingers nervously around the leather briefcase, presenting a satisfied look on his face. Barely 30 seconds later, your passenger asks with a slight tremor, "Are we almost there yet?" You look at him in the rearview mirror, surprised and little annoyed. Usually it's a big brawny types who say stuff like that. Guys who think they are bulls in a cash cow world. But this guy, he looks more like a lamb to you. We just got going. He seems disappointed. Oh right, not a problem, not a problem. His fingers start rat-a-tatting again. That's when you notice the blood dripping slowly down his arm. He's wearing a dark-coloured jacket. Imagine doesn't seem to have any pain though. He's just staring out the window relentlessly. You watch him intently, trying to figure out what's going on in his head. You're bleeding. He stares at you for a moment, not sure if you heard him correctly. His vibrations. Yes, I'm fine. He rewards you with a grateful smile. The building manager didn't know I was coming by, so he since his dog's on me. A faint smile flickers on his face when he suddenly looks pale to you. Unfortunate business. I had sent a message to his wife, of course, but she had broken her leg that morning, so she forgot to tell the husband. Well, she didn't exactly break it. The cab did. The one I had ordered to go into the office. He ran over her. Because, you see, wait, I'm getting it all wrong. I had already gone in that morning, but I forgot the key to the safe. That is to say, well, it's perfectly complicated actually. He gives a short laugh. I dropped the key and it got stuck in the gearbox of my car. He stops. Not my car actually, but an odd jalopy on loan from the garage. Jamone, because my real car, so to speak, broke down on the way to Paris yesterday. I was just back from my friend's funeral in Brest. A tragic death. Gas leak in a chant lit with we shared in the house. He heaves an orderly, woeful sigh. So now I have two cars in the garage. He appears to be momentally preoccupied. Not exactly the best timing. He gives his briefcase a knowing pat as it contains the launch codes for a US nuclear arsenal. But these papers are pretty darn important. Clearly he's impressed with himself. I work for father. It was an emergency. Well, yes, it did take 2 days. What with the breakdown on the highway, and then the flood in the first garage, the key stuck in the gearbox on the car below, the accident with the caretaker's wife, the day at the hospital, the traffic jams on the way back. He swallows audibly. The dogs. He heaves a deep sigh, and then the fire alarm went off in the father's office. Just between you and me, I have doubts about the Picasso drying out, but I haven't had time to look into it. He drops his head for a moment before adding, but father says we shouldn't talk about the Picasso. He looks at you, his voice brightens noticeably. Quite a day, huh? Especially since the papers were not in the safe. They were in the trash. His eyes widen. It's crazy how big that building is. There are tunnels in the basement and dumpsters the size of a cab. He bites his lip. Not that your cab is a dumpster, I mean. Don't get me wrong. But we forgot we live in a small anthill. The garbage bins, the papers, the sewers. But that's not that I'm likely to forget the sewers anytime soon. I've actually visited them a few times up close and personal. Did you know that 1 out of every 37 manhole covers in Paris has a manufacturing deficit? Just imagine. Just nod yes. Aha, so I'm not the only one. Of course, the company that manages the manhole covers insists it's just me. But I know that manhole covers are faulty. You are nearing your destination. Your passenger is incredibly excited. You wouldn't happen to be unlucky. Your passenger's eyes look mine. Me? Unlucky? He nods his head. Funny you ask. People ask me that all the time. I don't think so. I've had a few accidents, of course, like everyone else in life, I guess. But unlucky, no, I don't believe in stuff like that. I think you are to concentrate, to focus on your work, on your life. But that we have to forge ahead, come that way. Even if your fiancé leaves you for a priest the day of your wedding. He raises a warning finger. And before you ask, no, it's not bad luck. It's a beautiful love story. I am happy for her. He pauses. And for him, of course, the priest. He manages a forced smile. You park in front of the address he had given me, a large Haussmannian building, clearly home to the host of lawyers and notaries. Well, I'm off. We still have a few hours to get Father's defence ready. Soon he'll be free. I know it. I can feel it. He pays his fare and exits the cab in a hurry. You watch your passenger approach the door, punch in the code, punch it in again, get impatient, and start walking away from the building. A honk. You give a honk and you're, It's funny, I can't get in. What street number did I give you? 112. Oh, right. It's actually 212. Still a way away. Climb on in. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm not very good with numbers. Does that happen very often? He nods. All the time. And juristic is awful. Dryskolistic. I mix up numbers. I can't read them well. You nod and start. Like dyslexic, but with numbers. Exactly. I am also dyslexic for that matter. You stop short. Damn, there are firemen in the street. You will almost come to 212. A fireman decks out in the protective gear motion to you stop. The passenger leads forward. What's going on? That's the address. Out of the window you see a elegant apartment building in flames. Hardly down the emergency vehicle blocking the street. Fire at 212. Your passenger is running through his pockets in a tizzy. He goes, well, damn. I have to go. Thank you for your help. He leaps out of the taxi and dashes out towards it, his briefcase clutched away in his chest. You start the cab. Gives me 50 cents in tips. After this, I may need to get a, Sure. Ooh, 2 people. So, what do you think? About him? Who else? Of course, him, not the bar. Well, I'm not sure. A strange sound in that tip, she sighs. He seems pretty dumb. Dumb? How so? You know, dumb as a doornail. All but staring at himself in the mirror over the bar when he wants to get drinks. But does that matter? No, not really. He's got a good body. Good looking, lots of energy. He's got a sort of animal vibe. A little like a panther. I really like that style. You really like that style? The passenger exchanged a look. The older of the two gives a fat. You know exactly what I mean. The reach of each other's hand in the backseat of the car, the gentle is full of tenderness. Moment silent. The older woman clears her throat. What about you? What did you think of him? The younger woman gives herself a minute to think. I don't know. He was heavy, too sure of himself, and he spends too much time in the gym. Did you get that about him? Yeah. Police? That innuendo about sexual... Oh, please, just in a really awful way. A short mocking of laugh escapes her. He was pretty heavy-handed with all the expertise on yoga and orgasms. True though, strong pelvic muscles couldn't hurt. Well, anyhow, he was all preaching. He should write a book, a perfect gift for your ex-husband. They burst out laughing. When the laughter dies down, the younger of the two resumed talking in a more serious tone. Anyhow, like I was saying, she looks at her friend intently. Is it really that important? I mean, we're looking for a donor, not a father, not a lover, not a guardian or godfather. Nothing but a donor. Yeah, just a donor. She casts a glance in your direction, conscious of all of a sudden they outline the cap. She goes on, lowering her voice. Yeah, but still, if he had been a date, I think I would be out there in a 5 minutes flat. I do yoga, meditate 6 hours a day. I went to Tibet to learn the ancient art of, and serfdom did exist in Tibet before the 1950s. I checked on Wikipedia. I thought Buddhists were supposed to be curious and open-minded. He was like some old conservative dude in the body of a young Brad Pitt. Pause again. But like you were saying, does that all really matter? The friend nods. The two young women are lost in their perceptive thoughts. You know, I'm not against that kind of stuff or anything. It's up to him. If he wants to be a drag with all that yoga and meditation BS, I don't have a problem with that. She gives her girlfriend a miserable look. Anyhow, there's no way any of that is going to be passed on to our daughter or our son. And her friend flushes in a big smile. It's going to be a girl. I can feel it. And yoga. It's not genetic. We'll have to ask Dr. Vidal. Yes, I bet he'd really love that. He'll think we're messing with him. He said we could ask him anything. He's going to take us for a couple of idiots. Besides, its impossible pompousness cannot be passed on to children. The young women don't seem convinced and make an exaggerated pout. So you're saying an ear for music, yes, that's passed on, but pretentiousness isn't? Exactly. So if you don't want to believe me, she leans forward all of a sudden. Sorry to bother you, but did you hear what we're talking about? Some of it. No need to feel embarrassed or anything. We were talking about out aloud after all. Our friend that's outside. Come on, leave him alone. I was just asking. Well, right, so my wife and I are meeting potential donors in order to conceive a baby. Her partner rolls her eyes, and we were worrying if you thought pretentiousness could be passed on to children, genetically. You gave her a look in the rearview mirror and take a moment to answer. The question is utterly absurd. Leave him alone, Emily. He's a taxi driver, not a geneticist. Don't get all worked out about it. I'm just asking you. No, it's impossible. The bachelor flops back in the car seat. The answer is no, isn't it? You're no fun. Seriously, you should have taken another cab, driven by the genetics experts. The bachelor leans forward towards you. Sorry, my partner doesn't mean anything by all that. We've had a bit to drink, and it's the first time for us tonight. We're meeting donors. You pull up to the client's address and cut the engine. Be understanding. No problem. Bashir seemed relieved. I'm a cab driver. I'm used to all funny stuff. I can imagine. Have you been driving a cab for long? To avoid her eyes. Yeah, you could say that. The passenger pays for the ride. She lets out a sudden guffaw and can't help adding. Anyhow, thanks for answering. Come on, Emily, that's enough. While her friend tugs her arm, Emily starts to run with herself. I definitely think we should ask the doctor just in case. We need a second opinion. You can't wait until the two women have entered the building, then start the car. A big tip. Nice tip. I'm going to go down there first. No soul in sight. Very cheap for fuel. That's nice. Tank's full. Enter the shop. You walk into the mart. Behind the counter, a student doing his homework lazily raises his head. Yes? I have no idea what that means. Can't win them all. Oh, it's a lottery ticket. Okay. Talk with a clerk. I was wondering. his gun back soon. In the middle of the sentence when we leave the shop. Just got another clue from it, you know. Yeah, I'll take the guy in sunglasses. So there's another newspaper. Stop reading for the moment. I want to get to the... Oh. Oops. I didn't know that would stop time. Oh, that's a long way away. I'm going to refuse that. Wow. That's so far away. You go. You. Sure. I just want to end the episode soon. I don't really want to, you know... I didn't think that this first episode would, you know, would happen for so long. Say nothing. End of night. Oof. Big oof. Okay, well that is definitely the end of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Do also notify your friends, because I'm thinking I'm definitely going to increase this type of episode and play more of these type of games, because it seems very entertaining. And I thank you guys for coming. Hold on. And good night.